As we move on to Chapter 4, let me give you a quick look at the textbook where we're going. We started out in this first portion of teaching as a profession, and we looked at that, and then we came back. The last two that we looked at together was the historical foundations, and that was early history and then the perspectives of it. Well, now we're going to move on to the third part of philosophy, the philosophical approaches, and that's Chapter 4 and 5, and I'm going to kind of string these together in a couple places, but the lecture today is just Chapter 4, and I'll tell you how we're going to connect it to Chapter 5. We go to Chapter 4, the learning outcomes, like we've looked at most times, major philosophical questions, association with the branches like metaphysics, epistemology, and axiology. Describe those approaches. So you got to say those words. So when I get to them, I'll tell you about that. And then the second part, elaborate major tenets. And here's the ones we study here: idealism, realism, pragmatism, and existentialism. Will be what we study today, these four. And then there's about 6 more, I think, in Chapter 5 that will add to this. And describe the characteristics of Eastern and Native American ways of knowing. And that, to me, I don't quite understand its inclusion here. But in the politically correct world we live in, these authors feel very strongly about making this a big part of our system, which it's not. But we'll let the authors have their way on this one and pay attention to that one. So those will be the 3 major things that we look at in this chapter. We'll start out with the structure and methodology of philosophy. How does that sound? If you had any philosophy, if you had some of this you may have heard in psychology. If you had ed psychology, educational psychology, you should have heard some of this. So I'm going to approach it, though, as this is your first flyover on philosophy of education. Provides a way to examine and interpret the world, to ask basic questions about human nature, beauty, principles of right and wrong, and how knowledge and reality are defined. Okay, so some of this we take back to families and religious beliefs and stuff, but what philosophy does is try to look at it all at a secular level, and that's kind of the approach here. Philosophical thinking helps to uncover the essentials, the basic principles that undergird teaching and learning. Okay, and so I'll let you go through this. Although philosophy can be defined in many different ways, it's best thought of in the passion to uncover underlying meaning of things. Okay, and if people that go on and study this for a living and make a living talking about philosophy, that's what they're trying, the meaning of things. Okay, early philosophers did not claim to be wise, rather than viewed themselves as reflective thinkers in search of wisdom. So let me look at this. So here we are, and I always comp a picture. Way to examine and interpret the world. Philosophy arises in people's minds, hearts, and is seldom expressed in words. Philosophy reminds teachers to continue to search for truth. So you didn't know that, but now you do. And so let me go back to where this is. Okay, so here's the branches. The branches of philosophy. The metaphysics is a branch that is concerned with questions about the nature and reality of the world in which we live. And that comes right here. What is reality? What is presence? Classroom philosophy. And that's just a little cheat sheet. And then it goes a little deeper here. Metaphysics. What is reality? So what I think I'm going to do is have, this will be our number 1 here. And for each of these, leave this here, but bring in this from page 83 right here. Okay, so a little branch, and do that for each of these, epistemology and axiology, and you'll see them right here. So here, this one is reality, and you still bring that in. This one is truth, and this one is value. and then study these, because there's questions on the test very specific to these things. Okay, so you'll want to read this and bring this in, so we can make this number 2 and this number 3. But hang on to those words right there for your sake here. Okay, axiology. The study of values is divided into ethics, morals and values, and aesthetics. Let me show you this. Okay. That's right here. What is the ethics and aesthetics? And again, there's a question on the test about those, so you'll want to know what you're talking about there, and it comes from here. Okay. Then we move to thinking as a philosopher. And it takes you through a piece about this, about analytic thinking and prophetic thinking. And so I'm going to give you this. Analytic thinking is focused on questions of the what means to be, and here is what ought to be. And it's a little hard to get your mind around. So analytic thinking, what seems to be is abstractions, imagination, generalization, things that are more real. Prophetic is discernment, connection. So your ability to reason and think through things. Okay. So where does this go? It goes to abstraction, and I'm going to give you those that you will make this number 4. And this is right out of the textbook. You get these things. What are they? And you put one-liners in there, abstraction, and it gives you these here. Imagination and generalization, logic, deduction, induction, and again, you'll want to read about these things. It's an important part, and there's some questions on the test about it. But you'll want to be able to speak intelligently about these things. Okay, and this is a little scenario that takes you through what are some students in my classroom fail to complete their why do some fail to complete their homework? Okay, so it gives you this scenario. It moves over here. Draw away from the specifics. What motivates my students? What inhibits my students from completing homework at home? What motivates human beings? Then down here, people like freedom. People enjoy completing tasks. They all do well. And so it takes you through those steps. Then we go to this prophetic ways here. Also, this is number 4. This will be number 5. That you'll respond to each of these. Again, these get a little hokey here. There's prophetic thinking. Here's discernment and connection. Tracking hypocrisy is really interesting. They're built on the inferment that it infers that you have a problem with this, and let me see if I can bring that down a little closer. Although relationship between empathy and teaching is important, it is equally important the prophetic teacher to identify and make known the gap between principles and practice, between promise and performance, and the work and reality. Now that is a mouthful. Tracking hypocrisy ought to be done in a self-critical rather than self-righteous manner. It takes boldness as well as courage to point out the inconsistencies between school policies and practices. But when doing so, the prophetic teacher remains open to others' points of view. Very interesting. I don't get that. I don't get what points of view that you would be close to. New evidence might reveal that one's position is no longer valid, or it might enhance one's original thinking. Okay, and it describes how prophetic ways of thinking helps teachers solve a classroom puzzle. So here, this is another classroom problem. Why do some students in my classroom fail to complete work? And then it takes you through this. It might be this. The gap between principles and practice. Why do I require homework? Do I allow for students' choice? And then the last one here is hope. Fourth, perhaps most important prophetic thought is simply hope. who estimates that given the numerous horrific examples of people's inhumanity to one another, it's hard to take hope seriously. Still, hope, but all is meaningless. He says this. So you will bring those in here to these ways of thinking. Okay, this is interesting on the technology in philosophy. Most of the time we think of technology as a tool. It's working efficiently to improve quality of life. Philosophers of technology take a broader look at technology by asking questions about the consequences that technology has on the physical human condition. Okay, what is the that, for example, the philosopher Heidegger believed, okay, 1993, that's not very long ago, technology provided the greatest danger, yet the greatest possibilities for humankind. Concerned that technology, because it has the power to present information by emphasizing the worth of an object while de-emphasizing its dangers. Called the power of technology in framing. Here's a little word that you want to see. And he is concerned that humans' ability to present things in a specific way could hide the actual essence of a thing. And we have that in technology, that all the wonderful things, all the harm that's been done, the hacking and stealing and bullying and things. So this is pointing this out here. And then it goes on here. This is really interesting. Do we consider technology a natural component of the changing world? Because change is natural, then technology is natural. Key to our rational minds, inquiry, determine the effects of technology. So he connects Dewey here and his physical and does technology enhance or detract from the essence of life? Is here to stay by asking broader questions, encouraging students to do the same, will encourage the development of technology. And what this is, here I have bolded the answer to these questions. By the way, I've set up the classroom. No, I'm sorry, I'm still up here. No matter what you think of technology, it's here to stay. Using analytic and prophetic tools of philosophy can help and direct the use of technology in ways to nourish society schools by constantly asking broader questions and encouraging students to do the same. Schools can provide a forum for controlling and encouraging the development of technology. And what this comes down to in your world, there is so much information available to students now in the palm of their hand, that one of the things that we as teachers need to help them learn to do is assign value to technology. Who's writing this? Because since you and I both are authors and contribute to that massive mounds of technology that's available in the palm of our hand, massive amounts of information, you and I realize that not all of it is of value, and it's certainly not all of it is accurate and true. And so we live in a world now with the terms like fake news and stuff like that, that will be more of our job in the future. We'll help students navigate that. So this starts out the teacher as a philosopher. Teachers' philosophy are acted out in a way to set up their classrooms, by the way they teach their students, by the rules they impose, and by the way they relate to others. And you didn't know that, but that is how you carry this out. And that's why we study philosophy. That's why educational philosophy is in here, is whether you know it or not, you are going to demonstrate your teaching philosophy based on these things. Okay, let that soak in a little bit. These are the ways that you'll demonstrate your philosophy. And teachers live out their personal philosophies every time they enter the classroom. A reflective teacher is a natural philosopher. So that's what this is. It walks you through that. So what are the schools of philosophy and their influence in education? The first is idealism. And idealism, this is just a quick, and again, hang on to this. Here's the four we're going to study. And this is what you'll want to be able to hang from here, each of these. Okay, so here's the first one, idealism. And I'm going to make that, this will be number 6 right here. You will give a definition of this, is what is idealism, and it gives you all these here, which are fine, but I want you to bring this from right here into there. And here's what you need to know about idealism. Fundamental, real learning comes from within, true growth must be self-initiated. Interesting. Study of great works. So this is what the study is. Imitate great teachers or great leaders. Teacher is the ideal model. Lecture, discussion, imitation. So going forward, that's what you got to know, but I want you to put the definition up there. And then implications of idealism. What should we teach? How should we teach? What important skills is there? How should I teach these ideas and skills? So here's number 6. First of all, I'm going to ask you to bring this definition in from idealism right here. And then you have these here. I'm going to ask you to match them up with these for number 7 in idealism. And here's the folks that were involved. Plato, Socrates, Immanuel Kant, and there's questions on the test about these, so you'll need to work with those. This was the part on Socratic learning, which we also dealt with last chapter through a series of questions, and they come into the fact that even this can be effective in science. Okay, so here we'll start again. This will be number 8 as we talk about realism. And I'm going to say this will be number 8 here. We had this before, but you're going to bring this definition from the textbook in there. And then again, it gives you a focus on scientific research. Reality can be measured. Study of organized body of knowledge, teach methods to arrive at knowledge, takes you through all these, and then I ask you these questions. So again, I'm going to ask you, this will be your number 9, I'm going to ask you to match these questions with these answers here. Okay, and that comes straight out of the textbook. And realism, here's the folks involved, and later I'm going to ask you to do something with this. And then pragmatism. Again, this will be number 10. You'll bring a definition in here, and you have these parts of pragmatism. Help students question what is, approach to problem solving, subject to revision. Students learn to construct, use test knowledge and claims, problem solving through interaction with the environment. Students learn method of inquiry and teach facilitate investigation. And so, again, you're going to make this number 11, and you're going to match up those with those right from the textbook here on realism. Now also you're going to get this as you see how these overlap. This will be your first clip, chapter 4 clip, that I'll have you import right here into your, let's see what this is. This is 4.3, figure 4.3, so I save it as that. I'm going to say this is figure 4.3, so you'll know it and you'll bring it in to your notes right here as I've showed you in the past. And you get that. Okay, this is all with realism. And then pragmatism. What's pragmatism? Go through this. We went through that. Here are these people that worked on it. And then extensionalism. And again, this will be number 12. Is the definition from the textbook. And here's the answers. They de-emphasize defying students, tracking, measure stifles creativity, students, teachers, lives, and choices, question and answer dialogues. And so, and here is the question. So this will be number 13 as you match those up with the answers again from the textbook. And you're going to get this one also, figure 4-4. This will be in there too, where you see the overlap of these. And that will be where you bring this in. Right here in your notes at the end of this. No, I take that back. You do it up here with pragmatism. This is existentialism. It is a different thing. And here's existentialism. And who's involved. And here will be the discussion question. I debated whether to do this one. Let's do this. Rather than this question is, how should teachers wear business attire to school? And they have a couple things here. I want to make this just a general discussion about how we should dress for school. From the realm of Friday being jeans day, is that okay? One of the big jokes when I was in the middle school was the PE people were always in a pair of sweats and a casual shirt, and the big joke was, oh, tough days for them, kind of thing. Always worked with some folks that were really dressed nice. I can remember one guy I worked with that he wore a pair of corduroys and a plaid shirt every day, and they looked like the same outfit he wore when he started teaching the day he retired. They were very worn, outdated, faded. Even though he was in dress clothes, he never looked dressed up. And so let's make this question. Let me take it out here. How should we dress as teachers, and what did we observe and poor teacher dress? There. And I guess it goes like this at the end when you start with a question. So that will be our discussion here. Instead of this, should we wear business attire? So here is a portion here, and I want you to see me how I'm going to do this. I'm going to try something here. Is they made a nice table for you here, and I'm going to ask you to add on to this. So I'm going to see if this can work. I'm going to try and grab this table out of here. Okay. And I'm going to go to my Google Sheet, and I'm going to see if I can get this in here. Okay, okay. I'm going to just paste this so you can see it. All right. Here's how it looked in the book. Had the different things, but I want you to add on to this both this way and this way. And so what I'm going to try and do, I'm going to try and transpose this differently. So I'm going to try this. I'm going to say transpose it. And what it did, it flipped the columns. No, I think I have to Now I copy this and I go to another page. Now I think I can do this. I'm going to try and transpose it. There, it worked. It worked. Now let me clean this up a little bit. For example, these disappeared here, and I'll tell you what's wrong with them is they went dark. So I'm going to reset that so those come back. And I'm going to make those a little bit bigger and bold them so you can read them. Okay. And one of the things I have to do, looks like, is I have to allow it to wrap so it fits. So let's see, I think it's under format. Tell it text wrapping, yes. Okay. Now this isn't perfect. Well, first thing I want to do is I want to bring it to the top. It all sets in the bottom of the cell. It's a little hard to read. So I bring it to the top. Now look at there, a little easier to read. I'll pull this just a little bit this way. So it's one of the things, I made these bigger. I'm going to shrink these down again. I said 12. I'm going to go back to 10. So I have a little room. Alright, not perfect. There's a couple owies here. Let me see if I can fix those. Oh, here. Like this should be dropped down, this thing here. This should be... Now look how I do this. I say these are these two, so I merge them, and these are these two, so I can merge them. All right, there's one missing here. Let me clean up this a little bit and I'll be back. Okay, I'm back and I got it cleaned up and it looks pretty dang good. I'm going to get this out of here. Okay. It looks pretty dang good, and there I have it for you. Let me add something here. I'm going to insert a row above, and I'm going to merge them. I'm going to grab this topic so that you have it here. Pull it down a little bit. I'm going to say it's right here. Okay. And I'm going to merge those so you have them. I'm going to center it just so it looks a little better for you. There it is. All right, now what you are going to do for each of these, I'm going to give you this heading. Is you are going to add who the philosophers are on each of these. Okay. And I'll make expandable for you. Down like this. And I'm going to make sure you've got cells to work from. You don't need that. Alright, so here's what you'll do. Here's what your world will happen. You are going to take this and download it. So I'm going to share it. Oh, it wants a title. And so I'm going to do the same. I'll give it this title. for now. And it'll be a little bit different, but I'm going to do this. Everybody that has it can view it. So you can't do anything with it, but you can view it. So you'll want to download this. And I'm going to link it right here for you. On this table. More technology than you wanted to know. All right, so what you'll want to do when you come to this, you'll want to download it, save as, Excel. But when you get it downloaded, what you're going to want to do is go ahead and copy it. After you get this, after you download it, you're going to fill this in for each one of these: idealism, realism, pragmatism, extensionalism, and it gave it to you in each of these here. Here, like here's extensionalism. You don't have to give what they did, but you have to mention all these people in here, so you have that also. And what I'm doing for you is making a little study sheet. And then when we do chapter 5, I'm going to ask you to add on to here. And what that'll mean is you'll re-download this, because I'll update this for chapter 5. But for this, you'll download it, add these philosophers, then copy it. I think I have that here, like this. Copy it when you have it all fixed up nice with those philosophers in it. And then you will in your notes, say for example here where you're going to put it, you simply paste it, and it should paste just like you copied it, and then you have it. Only you'll have your philosophers over here. Okay, I know, that's cool. You're amazed at how cool that is. Okay, let's go back to our book here, and we have this now. Have it ready to expand. And we move on and say, here's this Eastern and Native American ways of knowing. And I'm not going to do a lot with this. I'm going to let you do this. And let me show you what I'm going to have you do all the way through on here. Eastern ways of knowing. This is a big part of this. Inner peace, tranquility, attitudinal development. All these things here, ways of knowing. So, first of all, on Indian thought, this will be number 14 from the textbook. Right here. Well, first of all, Eastern ways of knowing. Let me back up to that and have you bring that in. So we'll make this number 14. And I want the official definition from the textbook there. And then this is 14. And this is now 15. And that came from right here. Indian thought, and then Chinese thought, Japanese thought, implications of this, North American ways of knowing, all that you're going to bring here. So there's 15, here's 16, 17, 18, and please, there's questions on the test about here. This, here's 19. I'm going to make this all one, number 20 from these. And those have a lot of that in there. You can grab that Navajo, Lakota, Hopi. You maybe can just update these a little bit. Let's take this off. Forget this one. Just know this one, because there's some questions on that. Application of North American ways of knowing. And there those are. Okay? That's chapter 4, and the philosophy. We'll build on it in chapter 5.